Okay, I will call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging we're in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Brent McIntyre to my immediate left and Cynthia Stevens to my far left. The assessor today is Svetlana Shabel. Is Jeremy going to be around?
Mm-hmm.
Is Jeremy coming? Okay, Jeremy Pohl. And the recording secretary is Kelsey Harrison. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application and will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that the applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to applications of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. So Kelsey, can you do the swearing in? The first property will be 280 William Avenue.
Would you like to swear in or affirm without? Could you please state your name?
Svetlana Shabel.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Would you like to swear in or affirm without?
Affirm.
Could you please state your name?
Gary Chevet.
And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any evidence for me?
I have some documents to go through. If you want them, I can pass them on, but as we go through that.
If you're going to rely on written material, we would like to have copies of it.
Okay, sure. Pending how the discussion goes, I guess. The one that I like on this for sure is this one.
And you just have one copy? Or?
I was saying copy for myself.
We do require 5 copies, one for each panel member, the assessor and the secretary, but
Sure.
it's up to the chair. Yeah, it does
Can I
state it.
take a look at it?
Yeah.
Okay, is the issue going to be the leasable area on this?
Yes.
Okay, we'll see if we need copies at that time, it's referred to.
My apologies for not getting multiple copies.
Okay, so I understand this is a business appeal, so you can proceed.
Business assessment 29839, address 280 William Street, roll years 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the total annual rental value only. Description. This property is two-story, classically detailed, solid brick block, was built on southwest corner of King Street in 1924. Annual rental value includes the base rent of $12.44 for upper floor and $3.20 $0.07 for basement, and standard occupancy cost of total occupancy cost. We charge 66 cents for heat, $1.80 for electricity, water, 19 cents air conditioner, 32 cents. It's our occupancy cost altogether. It's $2.35 our occupancy cost. My comparables, it's owner occupied building. I did present four comparables. First line, it's a subject property. Overall rent area, rent per square foot, $9.56 for reported area, 14,400. My four comparables located on Portridge, Notre Dame, on Portridge, and Jack Blick Avenue. All average bill between 1915 and 1960. Lease start date from 2014 to 2016. 2016 April 1st, our reference date. Lease term between 3 and 10 years. Reported area between 1,500 to 30,000. Rent per square foot between $16 per square foot to $32 per square foot, with media of $20 per square foot. Based on comparables, the assessment is fair. It should be confirmed of $168,960.
Okay, do you have any questions of the assessor?
Not on that, you know.
Okay, Cynthia, any questions of the assessor?
Are you aware what this building is used for?
It's office building.
It's, oh, sorry?
Office
It's an
building.
office building? Okay.
It's occupied by Heartland International English School.
Yeah, I saw that. I just wondered what was, so it's offices, okay?
Mhm.
It's not a school,
For us, it's office building.
office building, okay. And so in terms of your comps here, there's really only one that's in the same general area, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Brent?
On your comps, 1485 Portage, that's Polo Park,
Mm-hmm.
and it's office,
Yes, it's
where's
retail. Retail.
retail?
So on another part, on another side of mine, I have a map of my comparables. So two comparables close to subject property and two comparables close to Polo Park. Polo Park.
And Jack Blick Avenue is retail?
Mm.
That was all my question.
Okay, for the subject property, you got a reported rent of $938. Is that a blended rate of?
It's
upper-
blended rate for whole building.
Okay. All right, thank you. So you can proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time today. And first of all, we'll start by clarifying, it is used as a school. A little bit of history, maybe understand what we're doing. Heartland International English School is an ESL school for international students. We bring students from around the world to Winnipeg to study English. So the space is built out with classrooms inside. In March 1st, 2018, I moved my business from 294 William, just on the other corner of William, to 280 William. So just moved down the block. We bought the building at 280. Went from leasing to owning. My business taxes went from $0 to $12,937 a year. I realize this is an issue more around fairness of business taxes, but it seems a bit of a problem. You know, you get a bit of a surprise when you go from paying 0 a year because you're below a threshold that gives you an exemption to paying $12,000-13,000 a year. Moving, not even leaving the same postcode and only having actually 40% more space. I understand that's kind of beyond the scope of this, obviously, because this is dealing sort of with the value. So, but still, I feel I need to say that. So the big issue here for me is that the size is wrong. I received the property tax assessments in March for 2018 and 2019. So because we had moved in, they were sort of late sending these out. But I came to file an appeal, and I came. When I filed the appeal, they said this is because it's a size issue. I can probably just work it out with the assessment office. So I went there on May 5th, attended their office, and I was told to send the drawings for review, which I did. And they took a look at the drawings and also some documentation I had from the construction company that built out the space. And when I look at the actual size of the property, so they've listed my floor plate here as 4,800 square feet. But the selling document for the property, the city listed it as 4,754. And in fact, if you look at city documents, it shows it being approximately that size, because the property is 15.16 meters by 29.108 meters, which my calculation leads me to believe it's 4,751 square feet. So whether it's 4754 or 51, the property, it's impossible for me to have more rental space than the actual size of the building. I think that's a fair statement. I brought this up with the city assessors when they called back after reviewing my documents, and their comment was, the size goes back to 1949, it's always been that way. Fair enough, the problem was it's a city property for all that time. No one ever paid taxes, no one ever really cared if the size was right or not. So just on the basis of the size of the building, clearly the 4,800 square feet is wrong. Okay. Now, my understanding of rentable area is actually the rentable area inside, and that's the document I brought from the architects that shows the measurements from a certified architect showing the interior space. I don't know if you want that now at this point or not. My apologies for not bringing documents. I didn't see that in the communication.
Do you want me to give it to the assessor first?
Yeah, give it to the assessor.
When I look at this document, the architect's drawing has the size, and this is from the middle of the wall. This isn't actually inside wall, this is middle of the wall. So I think this is actually overly generous, but 93 feet by 48.3 feet, which would give a size of.
What was that, 43?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, 93 by 48.3.
48.3.
Yeah. Which would give a size of 4487. Now, I'm not sure how the city classifies rentable space, if they go from the interior wall or from the middle of a wall. It's an old building, those walls are about 2 feet thick. So my argument would be that the rentable space is much smaller. And the construction company, when they tendered out for demo of the building, they had it at 4,274 square feet. I have a copy of that here as well. And then the other on the, so that's the main argument, that the size is wrong, and it has been historically, just because no one's ever paid taxes and no one's ever cared. Being a small business owner, if it's a difference in size, I'd like to pay the appropriate size to my building. As far as the rental rates, in a conversation I had with, as I was trying to deal with this with the assessment department, with Frank DeLuca on March 27th, He indicated that the upper two floors would be $12 per square foot and the lower floors would be $3 per square foot. I see it's slightly over that in this document that had been handed today. And as far as when we look at the comparables, again, we're a very unique business. We're the only private English school in Winnipeg. Most of the other schools are public institutions that do what we do. I don't know how that changes the actual rentable value, but it does change the value in terms of any sort of resale value, or because it's a very unique space. Anyone coming in there will basically rip out all the walls and put offices in and take the classrooms out most likely. But, so the comparables are difficult because these aren't actually similar to what we do, which I assume would be relatively hard for the assessor to find.
Okay, is that your presentation? What value, what size do you feel you should be taxed on then?
Well, assuming it's, if I was owning the building and renting it out, someone would want to rent the rentable space, which would be the 4,274 square feet per floor.
4,274?
Yes.
4,274. So it's 2 floors above ground in the basement?
That's right, yeah.
In the basement, it's heated and air conditioned and all that?
It's not air conditioned, we have baseboard heating in the basement, yeah. We use it mostly, we have, obviously our elevator room and maintenance rooms and mechanical room down there. And then we have a bit of lounge space and a small, room, we do some testing. So it is usable space, but it's obviously basement space. And then, in terms of, the size of these old exchange-district buildings, those walls in the basement are thick. I would assume that the square footage would be slightly smaller in the basement, but.
Okay, do you have any questions of the appellant?
No questions.
Okay, if you're done with that document, can we,
I need copy of this document.
I have 1 second copy. My apologies, I didn't see any communications.
I will need to get a copy of that as
You
well.
took copy for it?
maybe we should.
If you want, I can bring them back as soon as I'm done. I'm just
We-
processing.
Okay.
We should, maybe Todd, what is it out, not a normal sized document?
No.
So,
I can bring some back for you in 10 minutes after I'm done the meeting here.
okay, for the files then.
Sure.
All right.
So you want 5 copies of each?
We'll just need one for me, because we'll just pass this around for now. It's just, I need a copy for the file.
So we're going on the wall.
They should be able to give you copies at the front of our office for 50 cents a page or something.
Oh, yeah, I'm literally across the street. I can
Okay.
turn it off my copy, probably faster than they can do it for me.
Okay, did you have any questions of the appellant? Okay, Cynthia? any
So
questions?
this document was prepared
When we did the renovations in the building.
when you renovated the
Yeah,
building? Okay.
exactly.
And so when was that? Sorry, you may have said it, and
We moved in March 1st, 2018, so these
2018,
would have been
okay.
from fall 2017.
Okay. Okay, that's all I was gonna ask you about the basement, but you've already answered that, so that's all the questions I had, thank you.
I just have one. So this was purchased from the city of Winnipeg?
That's right.
This is the old library?
No, the police had some training and some record storage in
Oh,
there.
okay. When you purchased the building, did the purchase agreement reference the size of the building?
It didn't, it referenced the exterior size of the building. Actually, I have that one right now. And that was I think it was 4754.
So that 4754 you mentioned before, that was the exterior, you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It's one area.
Yeah, my guess is over the years, it just sort of been, roughly 4,800 square feet, and everyone just sort of went with that and documents over the years.
Was there ever a surveyor's certificate associated with the sale?
There's so many documents, I honestly can't remember all the surveyor was in.
But this was the city who had it up for sale, so they could.
That's right.
Same, yeah, okay.
And that number basically matches if you look on, public documents for the land, it matches, and the building goes right to the edge of the land, so.
Any more questions, Vern?
No.
So your releasable area 4274 excludes all the cutouts, the stairwells and there?
No, that includes that space, yeah, that includes all the interior space, that number is the interior space, entire interior space. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I heard your number wrong, yeah, 42 includes the, from the inside of the wall, not from the middle of the wall, and,
Takes out the stairwell.
I assume so, yeah, because that was for demolition that they provided that, so I assume that would, end up taking that out.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you very much for that. So if you can then bring these documents. So thank you for that. Next, we will move on to 1831 now.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll just need the one copy of the second sheet. You handed it, because I have these ones.
Okay.
Oh, no, that's, that's mine. Never mind. We can't have that.
Good luck.
Would you like to swear in there, or could you please state your name? And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, so we have 1831 Nest. The issue is the assessed value, and the reference date is April 1st, 2018. So you can proceed.
Roll number 0702079500. File number 19-1098. Address 1851 Ness Avenue, owner Nuzio Sila. We are valuing the property as a state, as it stands on January 1st, 2020, based of economic condition as April 1st, 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of the assessed value only, based on the evidence in this report. It is assessor opinion that the market value of the subject property as of April 1st, 2018 is 302,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. This property located northwest Portridge, a portion of the city of Winnipeg, on intersection Nest Avenue and Parkview Street. Page 10 and 11, we have subject location map in air photos. This building was built in improvement 1965. Rectangle area of land is 2,712 square feet. Land area 1,440 with leasable area of 2,880. this building owner occupied. On page 2nd, we can more air photo of this building. On page 3rd, I did present medical office rent comparables. First line at subject property, building 1965, leasable area 2,880. We estimate net rent per square foot $8.39. At my 4 comparables, you can see under table presented by Google Map. This red dot, it's our subject property. 4 comparables located at Roblin, Maine, St. Anne, and Roblin. All built between 1973 and 1980. Start date of lease 2016-2017. This term of 1 year and 6 years. Square foot, leasable area between 800 square feet to 4.3 thousand square feet, with net rent between $13 per square foot and $19 per square foot, with the media is $16 per square foot. On page 4, our market income estimation. First at premise ID 5925, it's our basement or basement floor area, and 5926 main floor area. This overall net rent per square foot $8.39 give us $24,149 potential rent. We did apply vacancy loss 5.5%. Our effective gross income is $22,821. We did apply expenses at 2%, shortfall 7% per square foot. And our net income $21,256. Overall capitalization rent 7.05%. On page 7, we have capitalization rate table. Our suburban area, suburban B office building between 6.2 and 7.3%. That's similar, very similar to Colliers, SPRE, and Cushman. On page 8, the following sample actual sales that took place during the reference date. The purpose showing this individual capitalization rate is to illustrate the accuracy of the model is substantially the model derived capitalization rate. There are not mean to be comparables, subject, specific to the subject property. Net operating income has been developed through stabilizing owner reported income expense information. Capitalization rate has been derived by dividing the property net operating income by its sale price. You can see that capitalization rate range between 5.1% and 6.54% for office buildings. On page number 6, we did presented purpose our non-recoverable expenses net of vacancy shortfall as percent of effective gross income actual. It's around with media 1.12%. It's very well support our general 2% not recoverable expenses allowance. That include shortfall allowance per square foot to account for not recoverable expenses associated with vacant space. So by applying, by dividing net operating income by our capitalization rate, 7.5%, estimate value of subject property, 303,000. Based on the evidence in this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1, 2018 is 302,000, and that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed.
Okay, do you have any questions of the assessor? Okay, Cynthia, any questions of the assessor?
I'm just looking at your comps. So this is considered, for all intents purposes, is as office property. But I noticed, but your comps are all other medical facilities, no office properties in the same general area. Is there a reason for that, or?
Because in our records, right now it's medical office, so I try to find comparables for
Okay.
medical office.
Like some of these seem to have parking right out front and et cetera, which this does not. Okay, I think that's all I have, thank you.
Okay.
Just one question, so the building was built in 1965.
Mhm.
Is there any renovations done to it or upgrades?
I know that basement was floating and plumbing was done. This bit here. Where's mine? Plumbing was done in September 25th, 2018. Was installation backflow revised. It's my information about renovation.
So the upstairs or the main floor wasn't renovated?
I don't have this information in our records.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Okay, I have no questions, so you can proceed with the presentation.
I think you have received my copy. Have you used
Yes,
that?
we have.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I'm just gonna read off this copy. The structure in question is a two-story building that have been the owner since the spring of 1980. The upper level has been used since the purchase date as a dental clinic, and the lower level is the problematic area of the structure. It is unusable. During heavy rainfalls, the weeping towels surrounding the building do not function anymore. Thus, the water pools on the floor of the basement must be removed manually. Repairs to the weeping towels is impossible due to the proximity to the street in front and private properties in the rear. Inspector of the city of Winnipeg have come to verify this problem many times, and I've realized that the building cannot generate any income through lease in its present state. The Board of Revision assessed the value of the building for the year 2016 at $180,000. During the previous year, similar reduction was applied, and I have provided a table at the back. In my opinion, $200,000 would be a more realistic figure for the 2020 property assessment value instead of 302,000.
That's it. Did you have any questions of the appellant?
No.
Cynthia, any questions?
So what's in the basement now?
I just have shelves and the supplies on the shelf, but not even on the floor, because around the periphery, there's, whenever you get a heavy rainfall, there's moisture and water.
So you basically have some supplies down there and then that's it?
That's it, that's there, they'll lift it from the floor.
Okay, and you're saying the issue with the repairing that is the proximity to the street, or I see you're right on the sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, I think that's all I had, thanks.
Okay, Brent, any
I
questions?
just have one question. On page 2 of your submission, you indicated that the 18 and 19 roll will be appealed to the municipal board. Was it appealed?
It was appealed, but I still haven't received any letter from them or anything.
Okay, no, that's all I wanted, clarification.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it.
Okay, and I have no questions, so thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation. That concludes this property. Sure. This one's like to be long, let's take it just a quick break. Okay, we will come back to order. Next on the agenda is 360 Main, so Kelsey, can you swear the next party in?
Could you please state your name?
Jeremy Reinhold.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Would you like to swear in or affirm? Could you please state your name?
Sid Story.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Could you please state your name? And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, so 360 Main Street. I'm sure this will be brief, so.
And we're all in the right
Good only
mood
wish.
here, right? Good, okay.
You can proceed.
First of all, we have preliminary issue
Okay.
of providing inconsistent information, 54.3.1. We're gonna go through, I'll go through it in a moment. They haven't reported an actual vacancy of loss, and also combined with the argument with the 2% that is, or 2% versus 5% for non-operating recoveries, as we've been hearing for the number of hearings. That's also plays into distorting what was actually reported. So I'm gonna provide some information on that. And I brought this up at 2-1 Portage, but it was under appeal. I asked for it to be addressed in the hearing or in the order. It has to be addressed in the hearing as we go along to know what we have to provide. But there was no actual ruling in the order itself. It was missed by the panel. I'm hoping that that doesn't happen again today. There needs to be a ruling on it when we get the order, so. I can go through it. First, we will go through. I'll hand this out.
No.
This is a copy of 223 James, and it's also a copy of the income and expense statements for back to 14. The appellant has provided information on those years, claiming vacancy rate from 14, 16, and 18. So I went through all 4 years and I stabilized the reported information that was reported to us. So I'll get to that in a moment, but first I'd like to touch on the order itself. So we've been pretty familiar with 223 James. I've been using it quite a long time, so. Preliminary matters, one of them was on page 2 of this order, the effect of providing inconsistent information and whether such information should be excluded from under section 62.1. That's a sister clause of the municipal board here. We're working with 54.3.1 of the act. And 3. I should start page 4.3. Inconsistent and exclusion of inconsistent evidence. The assessor reviews a variance report quantifying the differences in the information presented in the owner's brief with the information contained on the INE submitted in 2010. He highlights a variance of 1.3% in income and 28.1% in operating expenses as compared to the information submitted on the 2009 income expense questionnaire. Given the significant differences, he requests that the board use their authority under section 2.1 to disregard the income and expense information submitted by the owner as part of his brief to the board. In response to the request, the board points out that authority in section 62.1 is limited in making an order that the INE information and documentation presented at the hearing is not to be considered by the board in making its decision. It does not have the authority to exclude evidence from the hearing. As a result, the board advised it would make its decision on this at the conclusion of the hearing. So I asked for the information not to be heard. They said, no, that's incorrect, it has to be heard, and they made the decision as they went along, whether I had to rebut a point of information or they were going to put no weight onto it in the hearing, all the way through the items that came out, and there were numerous items. I didn't have to rebut them because they were putting no weight on it at the hearing, and then the order showed that. Here we only have two issues, vacancy and then the non-recoverable operating expenses. So I'll get to that now. The owner is claiming an office space, 15% vacancy, and a retail space of 10% for vacancy, as well as the issue with the 5% for non-recoverable expenses. So
Could you repeat that?
10% for retail for vacancy, and office for 50%, and then contentious 5% for non-recoverables, which we are all very familiar with at this point. I would hope so. So at this point, I'd just like to hand out information here. This is a summary of the 4 years in question the appellant has raised. Thanks. So I went through all the reported information. Not only did I bring the reported information and summarize it for you on a report, similar to the 223 James order, I provided you with the additional income and expense questionnaire verbatim, every single page. And the year in question for 17 is actually in my brief. So you have all 4 years. All these reported incomes are exactly what has been submitted on the, and expenses, exactly what's on the actual INE. So when you go through it, you'll notice that nowhere on the INEs themselves do they actually report vacancy. They give us the rent roll, but when they go through on each individual page, flip to one of them, you can do 17, it's in my brief for.
Page 17 of the INE.
There's numerous pages through it here. Just give me 1 second. Depends on which year we're starting. But I'll start with 17.
Since 2017 is the year that
Yeah, we can start with that.
we're dealing with, I don't really worry what happened in 2014.
What we're doing is stabilize to show for the use period up to it. So we can just turn to my brief if it's easier. I'll hold for a minute. So it would be on page for 17. If you look at what they were submitted, it's just right after the cover page of their income expense questionnaire. Highlighted for you. As you can see in the beginning of the revenues, they don't actually start with the potential gross income, they just report what they're getting. Not only do they report what they're getting, they report the recovery income, then the other operating income, and then as you go through the line items, you work your way down to owner's expenses, which is on page 3 of their income statement. Pay particular attention to non-recoverable operating costs. Line item 6595.
65. Okay.
So I am putting in on this report, every single item that they have reported is non-recoverable. From their appraisal fees to their consulting fees, bad debt, which is negligible, legal accounting fees, gym expenses, financing costs, advertising, promotion, marketing, parking costs, driver salaries, sundry administration, and then finally at the bottom, non-recoverable operating costs. That's everything that they reported between lines 6,500 and 6,799. So their total expenses are verbatim what I have, and their incomes are verbatim what I have. As you can see, I stabilized all 4 years. When we come down to year 17, off of that column is the stabilized years. So again, following good practice, we have non-recoverable back from the owner, back to the owner around 736,000, 742,000, 818,000, 701,000, and then stabilized at 759,660 or $759,695. That is inclusive of the shortfall and the 2% non-recoverable that we're putting onto the property. Right next to the column, we have broken out what our allowances are. The 2%, $214,129, and then the shortfall at $590,616, for a total of $804,745. That's our market parameters that we put on place with a vacancy of 7%, or 7%, I believe. Bear with me here, because we do also have the mixture of the two. For the office, it was 7%, and for the retail portion, it was 5%. So this is a total of what you see on page 11, which is my summary of the two income streams combined at $804,000. We can see that just what we see here from an OFA flagship building, premier building, that our numbers are slightly over what they're actually getting. But more importantly, as we see going along with the appellant is claiming 7% vacancy up into, I believe it was, a second here, starting in April 1st, 2014, a 7% vacancy, leading up to April 1st, 2018, increasing to 32.31% vacancy. You can see that this non-recoverable operating cost should be escalating as your vacant space rises. It should be escalating substantially to reflect what's actually not recovered. The cost to the owner is not being reported as such. It's actually being reported as a very stable rate. We're at 7%. We have a advertising on our page 36, which has a summary of about 53,790 square feet of vacant space being leased in the property, which is about 8%. So again, right at our model rate. So after we get back to what the appellant's claiming here today, we're asking for this vacancy to be ignored. It's inconsistent what's actually the performance of the building, of the property, and also inconsistent with what was been reported on the INE, as there wasn't actually any numerical vacancy reported, just simply the rent roll and the advertising that we've been found up at approaching the reference date in the spring of 2018. I'd also like to point out that what they submitted for their 18 section, if you look at on their page 16, they submitted April 1st, 2018 at 32.21%. If you turn over to the next page, you can see that this is not, it's not a full mailer, obviously, but this is just a summary of the rent roll of what was there. And it's not, although it's stated April 1st, 2018, it's not what was submitted on the INE. The INE isn't verbatim what I have on my submission. This is not part of the evidence that we, or part of the income expense questionnaire that we got from the property owner. So, from the information that I've seen, the vacancy does not exist in the building, and it's inconsistent with what they reported on the INE. In fact, that the INEs they're not actually filled out, and there is no actual vacancy, collective rent reported. So, combine that with what's also out appeal here today is the non-recoverable expenses. It shows it through. you should see this non-recoverable cost escalating as you report an increase in the vacancy from 7% to 32%, but it's simply not shown, and it's not shown in the reported income either. If you look at the reported income, it's actually very stable as well. So, at that point, I'm open to questions.
Did you have questions on the?
Suggest you ask for this to be adjourned so we can review all this.
Yes. Well, you can ask.
Go ahead, say your final.
I would suggest this be adjourned. This is until we have a review of this from, this is all new information to us. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, what I was asking for. The I&Es have been filed, I've done this property for 15 years or more. The vacancy shows by unit, as well as a summary at the end of all. Now he's talking about the questionnaires. I didn't prepare the questionnaires, but these are the rent rolls. We also provide, to make it easier for the board, each of the board members have, we do 3 different sets of rent rolls that we give to Mr. Fuller. So I would ask for,
But we had to review it.
so review the adjournment for a moment to.
Yeah,
Sure.
so perhaps we can get 15 minutes or so at least.
Sure. Given the importance of this, I'm prepared to give you every time you need.
Thanks.
All right, we shall reconvene. Now we're at the point of your questioning the assessor on his request.
Yes, I have nothing to ask the assessor, but I do request of the board that you consider an adjournment of this matter to give us a chance to get legal counsel involved. This is quite a significant happening. We had no prior knowledge of this. We have had a meeting with Mr. Hall about, in preparation of this meeting, we did tour of the building, and there was no reference to anything of this nature. We don't do the questionnaires for Artis Reed. Artis Reed is a big organization that's well audited. I did speak to Frank Sherlock just on our break, and Frank Sherlock said, I asked 2 questions. Number one is, I said, where are the leasehold commissions? He said, we're like any large organization. We capitalize the leasehold commission, the lease commissions, and we amortize them over the term of the lease.
Well, you're not
But
getting into evidence, so let's.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting. So he's saying he'll reconcile anything he wants, but I can't do it on the telephone with him. So, number 2 was the fact that there are different vacancies, and we've had great many documents shared with the assessor, including showing in there the vacancy, not just vacancy in total, but vacancy by unit, and then the percentages and all of these questionnaires. We don't do the questionnaires, artists have people that do that. But he did say right off the bat that the reason that you can have declining or increasing vacancy, and it won't be quite as dramatic, will be the timing of the vacancy. If the vacancy happens at the end of the year, it would show income for that year with a large vacancy because you're on a 1-year direct capitalization. Secondly,
Mr. Story, are you asking for adjournment?
yes.
Then ask for the adjournment.
My request is we have an adjournment. It's not
Okay,
fair.
I understand, and believe me, it has occurred to me that we don't have any parameters around when you have to request this. And I will be corresponding with Mr. Bresky to perhaps suggest we do have some parameters around that in the future.
I think that for the property owner as well.
Well, it is.
This is devastating.
I mean, this would have the effect of removing a fair bit of.
Indeed.
So-
I have one other point, since the other point was and I was gonna get into, was the post-reference information. The income and expense questionnaire that we received was dated April 2018. This is independent of the inconsistent information argument, is dated April 2008, April 18, 2018, and it's for the end of the 17 years, so all in 17 years. The appellant's submittal appears to be post-reference, as it's dated at the reference date, and that would go out, it would be post-reference, so we shouldn't be inclusive of it. And then if the panel was gonna allow or have some debate on that, I'd have to touch on 301 Mandalay, the order, which basically speaks to the the tax issue where, although it was a tax issue, the line item, you're supposed to work with everything in concert with the year, which is 2017. So by bringing in something outside of that time as post-reference, and it's not in concert.
Well, anything, April 1st is the reference date, so anything prior to that is not post-reference.
No, what I'm saying is the actual date is post-reference. It's cut off here, but it's clearly was done after April 1st.
As long as the financials up to April 1st, I don't see it being post-reference, but anyhow, adjournment being requested, and I am inclined to grant the adjournment on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I should given the importance of the material.
Thank you very much.
What about the other items? Does that apply to the other items on the?
I'm not having any other fields.
Oh, okay, so we got, this is only 360 Main.
Is the panel the extra copy for the clerk? I think so, yeah. I think so, right? Yeah.
I did not receive it.
Yeah. For sure.
Thank you.
So everyone's got their copies then?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're more than welcome.
Guess you didn't need to go very much.
We didn't need to go over.
We've got a ham sandwich, I don't know what to do.
I'll take it home.
I won't take any suggestions of what I should do. We'll go on to 266 Main Street. I presume it's going to be somewhere around here. 60.
Yeah, let me cut these first.
Okay, so you're still under oath, so we will proceed with 266 Main Street.
File number 19-4069, roll number 12209298800. The subject property located on 266 Main Street, owner Artis Main and Gram Limited. We are valuing the property as it stands on January 1st, 2020, used on the economic condition April 1st, 2018. This appeal is with respect to the amount of assessed value only. The assessor requests that the burden of proof be placed on the applicant for non-cooperation, section 53.3b of the Municipal Assessment Act, in a reduction in assessment in order that is follows section 5.4.3.2 of Municipal Act. That's first. And second, based on evidence in this report, in this assessor opinion, the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018 is $773,000, and that,
Can you just lead us through the non-co-op first of all?
okay.
Because that will affect who goes first.
Yeah.
I can save you some time. We're not contesting it, and I'll just ask for 54-1. I will give you a bit of background for you, if I may. This is a parking lot, part of a lease with CBI, or the training school right on the corner of Graham and Main. It's called CBI. One building removed going further south is this parking lot, and it's an offset of the assessment on the overall holding, and they just missed filings, so they're at fault.
Okay, so you're then declining to present evidence on
Yes, at this
valuation?
time. Yeah.
Okay, so refuse, okay, then the non-co-op is granted, so you can, if you can
And
briefly.
furthermore, pursuant to section 53(2), the burden of proof should be placed on the property owner on all matters at issue.
Yeah, so just, he has declined to present evidence, so just present your evidence so we have it on the record.
On my page 12, 13 through 17, you have income expenses matter reported by owner received on May 4, 2018. New information on page 12.
Yeah, that's fine, we've granted the non-co-op, just quickly lead us through your valuation on the property.
On my valuation, yeah. It is parking, unheated parking, surface parking, 28 parking stalls. Our monthly net units rent per stall, $103.50. My comparables presented on page 3. Table, comparable property 2017 reported rental area for surface parking between 100 and 150, $200 per square foot. All parking located around subject property. You can see map, Google map, with red dotted subject property. With applied monthly net units per square foot, $103.50 for 28 stalls. Our net operation income came across $34,776. Our overall capitalization rate, 4.5%. So estimate value of subject property, $773,000.
Okay, thank you for that, and any questions from the panel to the assessor?
I have no questions.
I just have one quick one. I haven't seen a surface parking lot yet this cycle, so is 4.5 what you're putting on all surface parking lots?
Yes.
Your cap?
Yes, in downtown.
In
this
downtown,
area.
yeah.
Yeah, it's specific this area.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. That concludes this property. Now we will move on to our ultimate property. I have 952 Main Street.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just ask for 54-1 on this as well.
Okay, so can you then briefly read in the roll number and your evidence then?
File number 19-3916, roll number 1400-102-0100, 252 Main Street, owner Carpathia Credit Union Limited. It's located, this appeal with respect to the amount of assessed value only. We are valuing the property as it stands on January 1st, 2020, based on economic condition as April 1st, 2018. Based on the evidence and this report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018 is $1,775,000 In that, the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed. The subject property located northwest portion of city of Winnipeg. Subject location map area photo presented on page 11. Photo of subject property on page 12. Regular shape of land size is $11,192. Leasable area, square foot. Leasable area 18,658 square foot. Improvements was built in 1975. It's free floor building area, buildings. We received income expenses information on May 3rd, 2018. It's presented on page 13, 14. We have a subject property leases, units 100, leased size 1976, lease for 44 years. It's gross lease $9.75. Majority of building occupied by Carpathia Credit Union, and we have another office space, 2 units, 204, 700 square feet for 1 year. I have for $7 signed in 2015. On page 3, bank rent comparables. With subject property first line, we estimate for around 80,000 square feet, we apply $10.74. My 4 comparables located Kivadin, Portridge, Region, Caridon Avenue, it's everything banks. On map below table, we can see location of my comparables with red dot subject property. These buildings built between 1982 to 2001, all leased from 2017 to March 1st, 2018 for 5 years. Leasable area between 3,000 to 7,000 square feet. My media for my comparables, $25.50 per square foot. On page 4, I did presented office rent comparables. It's 6 comparables of St. Mary Road, Henderson, Region, Avenue West, Provincial Boulevard. All comparables presented on the map below. The subject property red dot. This building was built between 1946 and 1980. This lease started date in 2017. This term between 2 and 6 years. This leasable area from 1,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. This media net rent per square foot $16.50. On page 5, our market income estimation. We have several premises with overall rent per square foot $10.74. Potential rent $200,000. We did apply vacancy loss 15% per square foot. We did acknowledge that building half vacant. We applied expenses 2%. Support for our expenses 2%. You can find non-recurring expenses sampling on page 7. We presented several properties, and our media for these properties or non-recoverable expenses came across $1.12 at $1.12%. We are applied shortfall for vacant space $7 per square foot. Our net operating income 147,000. The capitalization rate 8.3%, supported by table A. Our all city of Winnipeg range for suburban B space between 5.55%, 9.05%. We did apply 8.3% dual allocation. So our estimate value of 1,775,000. On page,
Okay, I don't think we have to go in further
all
detail.
my comparables presented started from page 18.
Yeah, because he's declining to present evidence, so.
So based on his evidence and his report, it is assessor opinion that the market value of subject property as of April 1st, 2018 is 1,775,000. And that the 2020 assessed value should be confirmed.
Alright, I take it you don't have.
Just a comment, the building is on Euclid in Maine, you can't give it away, but we're not presenting evidence, so just to put this in perspective. Thank you.
Okay, Cynthia, any questions?
No questions.
I have no questions, so. You've already declined, you said you're going to decline evidence. Thank you very much. That concludes today's hearing, which did not